Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Gaming with me, Tony Mo. Happy Friday to you, and we are back here with some more Overwatch post-commentary. I've got some Soldier 76 perspective for you guys over on Hollywood. This, of course, a map that features the hybrid game mode. I have to say, Hollywood is one of my favorite maps, hands down. I love the visual styling of the map, I love how it transitions from the two different locations, and I love how the layout changes. You've got a more open, large flowing laned area to start, and then once you start escorting the payload, you get that tighter, Wild Wild West scenario. I really genuinely enjoy that. Of course, the hybrid game mode is a game mode that also has quite a bit of change in itself as it progresses. So you start off with that attack and defend objective game mode, and then you push into that escort the payload. It requires that both sides, regardless of attacking or defending, switch up their tactics, potentially change up their team composition to make sure that they are as effective as they can possibly be. It also leaves you with some pretty interesting results when it comes to wins and losses. You know, you can have the best match ever going for you. As soon as you capture the payload, everything goes south. Now, that's not exactly what happened to us here. This is actually a loss that I'm posting, but a very good loss, and I think there's a lot of great gameplay here. There's a lot to be talked about, too, in terms of using certain heroes in an escort the payload environment, and why I don't believe they make much sense in most instances. So we are going to highlight some of the errors in our personal team composition, and also highlight some of the strengths in the enemy team's composition this time around. So to start here, I was playing Soldier 76. I'm going to end up maintaining 76 throughout the course of the match because I feel that it is necessary that we have the DPS that 76 provides. I've got my good friend Father of Wands repping his Diva, probably one of his best tank roles, and my good friend Lady Loki repping her Zenyatta, probably one of her best support roles. So there's definitely a strong trinity going on there. I'm very, very excited about that, and it ends up being a very strong decision for us early game. We end up pushing this objective rather quickly. You're going to notice me making use of my ult alongside of Diva at one point to eliminate their two Roadhogs. And that was part of my decision-making process to maintain 76, was noticing that they had a team with a lot of sustain. Those two Roadhogs are two tanks that really need to be taken care of. They obviously both have extremely high damage potential, so I was doing everything in my power to shred them whenever possible, dropping missiles on them, just making sure I was constantly putting out damage, while of course also additionally supporting my team in terms of healing. So right there we go guys, drop that ult. Diva sacrificing her tank, but nonetheless, this is the big push that we needed. We're able to get on the point, our whole team recombines, group up, forms Voltron, and then captures the objective. Sadly, there was no actual forming of Voltron, but we did capture this objective, push 76 out of there. One of our guys ends up switching to Reinhardt. I was very, very excited about this decision. When it happened, I thought, okay, he's going to help us push the point. This is a great idea. And then he rampages all the way in alone and gets killed, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's not his plan. And unfortunately, he will have a lot of deaths as Reinhardt before he goes ahead and switches to Widowmaker. All right, let's break it down now, guys. Let's talk about one of my issues with hero decision making in Escort the Payload is that there are a lot of people who think that sniper roles like Hanzo and Widowmaker, and I would say even McCree sometimes, are a strong fit for Escort the Payload. They're not. You know, Escort the Payload is that #1 game mode for the get on the frickin' point strategy. You need heroes that can stay on the point, that can have some level of sustain, and that of course can also deal damage. You know, you have your Reinhardts, you have your tanks, it's great that they can stay on the point, but who's going to do the damage for them? The Hanzo and the Widowmaker, who are caught up in the mix at like a 3 feet area? This isn't Counter-Strike, you don't have an AWP, this isn't Black Ops 2 with your Iron Sight Ballista. You need someone who can do damage, who can do high amounts of DPS, and who can do it efficiently. Widowmaker and Hanzo just don't fit into that build, and I know I don't think they make a lot of sense, so we ended up struggling at this point. Our Reinhardt trying to get on the point. You know, I'm trying to sit back and clean up targets. But we needed more DPS. I think that was our biggest issue here. And while we will end up making the next checkpoint, they now bring a Mei into the mix. Their Hanzo does a really good job of shutting me down there. And we'll talk a little bit about why you should not ult out in the open like that with 76 in just a second. But things are going to start to get rough for us. And this is where it kind of starts to go south. We find ourselves in the Antarctic, we've lost our guide, and we do not have any polar exploration gear. That's how south it goes for us, but still a really fun match nonetheless. This is one of my favorite matches that I played in a very, very long time. There's no doubt about that. So, small tip here. Again, guys, throwing tips into the mix. You'll also see a little tip screen pop up towards the end of the video, highlighting all the tips that we've talked about in this video. Surprise the enemy. Don't just deploy your ult out in the open. And I know this is a very easy thing to do. You just saw me do it. I do it all the time, and I regret it. It's really easy to get caught up in the mix with 76. You know, to be in the thick of it, you know, dropping fools left and right, man, going all crazy Rambo Commando, you know, showing off your dude bro Call of Duty shooter skills, and then all of a sudden your ult pops and all those juicy targets are right in front of you, and you're just like, I just want to aimbot all of you. And you do it, and then you get shut down instantly by a Hanzo. This is why it's important to make sure that you are heard but not seen when deploying your ult. Had I went inside one of several buildings and flanked the enemy, there's a chance that I would have gotten a lot more kills. Our team would have possibly ended up getting a team kill, which would have been really great. That would have helped us push even further into this warehouse. But instead, I deployed it. I made a big vocal call out, and I also let everyone see that I was standing right there about to aimbot them. And you know what? They shut me down. And if there are any reasonably good players on the other team, they will shut you down time and time again. So don't make the same mistake I just made. Get yourself some cover, escape enemy exposure, flank the enemy with your ult. That is one of the best things that you could possibly do. I'm not saying that you should spend all of your time hiding as 76. As I said, it's important to be in the mix as 76, but it's as equally as important to survive when dropping your ult. Now, one of the great things you can do in combination with your ult to make it more effective, another small quote-unquote pro tip here, is to either boost the damage of your ult or boost the health or armor of 76 while ulting. Now, of course, there are multiple ways you can do this. You can have Mercy boost your damage with her damage buff ability. You can have a Torbarone, a Zarya, or a Symmetra give you some sort of a shield. Anything that's going to allow you to either stay alive longer while deploying your ult while getting in the mix, or allow you to do more damage is going to be a huge positive. Definitely going to need that team coordination there. Gotta love that ragdoll from Maze Ice Wall. That made me chuckle just about every time I've watched this video. Totally worth it. Alright, so back to the video here, guys. This is, like I said, where our team composition felt a little bit silly. I think 76, Zenyatta, and D.Va make a lot of sense here. In fact, this is a particular instance where I think 2 tanks would have made a lot of sense here. You know, number one, you have your D.Va. She can really get around, really get into the mix of things, do the damage. Also, a great ult for clearing out enemies while they're trying to group up on the objective. But we needed that Reinhardt, you know? We needed that additional push. And you guys have seen me showcase really big, close wins on this exact map, in this exact scenario, with Reinhardt. So it was really unfortunate that our Reinhardt not only left Reinhardt, but went to a Widowmaker, as I said, guys. So we've got a Widowmaker and a Hanzo now. 2 high-precision enemies who have very low HP, who have no place trying to get on the point. And I think this is really our big downfall here. I don't mean to throw it all on these 2 guys. There's no doubt that there's mistakes being made all over the place at this point. But that's because the composition just wasn't strong enough for us. It's hard for D.Va, it's hard for Zenyatta to get in there and do their thing, provide the kneeling they need to provide when we've got 2 really squishy heroes that just simply can't deal the DPS. This is a match where I end up with a ridiculous amount of eliminations, but those eliminations mean very little because we were never on the point. And that's the biggest thing about Escort the Payload. You know, I've talked about this in the past, guys. It's the biggest game mode when it comes to getting on the point. You can have the best team fights ever. You can get 31 eliminations like I did. It does not matter if you can't get heroes on the point to make the payload move forward. And that is the issue that we had to struggle with. This was a really fun match, though. There's a lot to be learned from this, like I said. You know, there's 3 of us playing in a group here. We don't complain. We don't yell at randoms because of the heroes they decide to pick. It's whatever at the end of the day. You know, they're going to pick who they want to pick. We just try and work around that. Sometimes you lose because of it. Sometimes you win because of it. Sometimes you get really antsy and you just throw everything to the wind and start rushing in and dying over and over, which is exactly what I ended up doing. I had a lot of failed ults because of that. But I also want to highlight, as I said, their team composition briefly. They had some really great mixes here. Their Junkrat was doing a lot of, you know, distant damage. You can see him up in that little, you know, window up there. Pretty much never able to put any sort of damage on him. And as much as I wanted to try and flank around and eliminate him, the enemy team was always there to shut me down. It was really difficult. So he did a really great job. Their Roadhog was phenomenal. Amazing hooker. He knew exactly where, exactly the distance to hook people at. You know, I thought I was always just out of his range, and then he would hook me. So, you know, really great job from their team. I think they all around pulled it together at the end here. They were really I think in a state of flux early on when they were defending, they had a different set of heroes. Their Roadhog did exist, but they just didn't have the damage they needed, and they were all grouping up, and they were making it very easy for someone like me to do a lot of damage to really tear them down. Our D.Va was able to get in there and really shred them. Late game, though, at this point, they spread out. They got themselves situated. They were hitting us from all of the different angles, making it very difficult for us to concentrate our firepower and to get on that payload. So huge props to their team. This was a really great match. I'd take 1,000 losses like this one over 5,000 wins any day. I've said that in the past, and I know a lot of you guys feel that same way, so I definitely wanted to share this one with you. It was a hell of a lot of fun. If you guys have any questions for me, anything you'd like to throw in there regarding Soldier 76 pro tips of your own, feel free to throw them down in the comments section below. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.